Is Charlie Manson crazy?
Or whatever that means. Sure, he's crazy as mad as a hatter. What difference does it make? You know, a long time ago, being crazy meant something. Nowadays, everybody's crazy.
The year is 1970. One man by the name of Howard Tetton shares a concern that many others have crawling up their skin. Sexual assault, homicides, and serial killings are on the rise. Many wonder why this is and how it can be stopped. Tetton isn't just thinking about it, though. He's a criminologist who works as a Federal Bureau of Investigation instructor at the FBI. He wants to take action. He wants to study these crimes and understand how they happen and why they happen. So, in the year 1972, he formed the Behavioral Science Unit, which would eventually be known as the Behavioral Analysis Unit, or BAU.
The BAU's role was simple. They were to study these criminal events and make profiles based off the behaviors and actions of those involved. With this information, they were able to successfully make conclusions about the psychology of those who would commit the murders to come.
How would they get the fine details that they needed, though? Well, they would have to do something a little hard to swallow. They talked with serial killers through a set of instructions created by Ann Burgess, a researcher who mainly focused on sexual assault and rape cases. BAU profilers such as John Douglas and Robert Ressler were successfully able to get information out of the most mentally disturbed of people. Profiling had been used since the Jack the Ripper killings in 1888, but never had it been used in such depth as they were in the BAU. It was often believed that profiling was to be used as a last-ditch effort when used in criminal cases, and was almost never successfully implemented.
Besides, people often thought serial killers were born bad. There are no deeper levels to it. Those such as Charles Manson were disturbed since their first breath.
The people at the BAU thought otherwise. Through their research, they came to find that more often than not, most of the individuals interviewed had similar upbringings involving parental neglect, mental abuse, and physical abuse.
For the first time, we finally understood that these people were not killers from the start, but instead had experienced traumatizing events that shaped them into the so-called monsters they had become.
But who were these people that instilled so much fear into the public? The majority of them were men, but the reasons for killing varied from sexual pleasure, physical dominance, and societal frustration. The BAU would come to interview 36 of these serial offenders. Among these 36 people, they would interview killers such as Jeffery Dahmer, Charles Manson, John Wayne Gayce, and Ted Bundy.
The information gained from these disturbed individuals would not go unused. The BAU would be involved in numerous cases in which their research would be necessary. One of the most controversial cases they were a part of were the Atlanta killings that took place between 1979 and 1981.
African American children were being abducted and murdered throughout Atlanta. John Douglas came to play a role in the case when he suggested that the killer was most likely black. He made this hypothesis based off of the fact that the killer would have to have access to the black community. His conclusion was heavily criticized by the people of Atlanta, but eventually the evidence would come through proving Douglas's claim. An African American man by the name of Wayne Williams would be arrested in June of 1981 for the murder of 2 men. It was suspected that he was involved in a majority of the children's deaths as well. In an interview with Vulture.com, Douglas described the criticism he received during the case. They were afraid I was going to create a race war. I remember walking down to one of the crime scenes and the detective says, "You're Douglas?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "I saw your profile. It's a bunch of shit, man." I said, "Fuck you, man. I didn't ask to be here. I just want to go back to Quantico. I got a lot of cases waiting for me back there."
The concept of a black serial killer was thought to be somewhat ridiculous, but when the BAU helped capture Wayne Williams, they showed the world that anyone could be a murderer.
Surprisingly enough, the word serial killer would not even come to existence without the BAU. Robert Ressler himself thought of the title after realizing that these people often killed in series.
Probably one of the most well-known and infamous people who fit this description was Ted Bundy. Throughout his reign of terror, he killed 36 women and evaded capture countless times. Before his execution in 1989, he helped the BAU capture Gary Ridgway, also known as the Green River Killer.
It was moments like this that would make the BAU one of the most important products of the 1970s. Without it, people like Wayne Williams and Gary Ridgway would be much harder to take down, and bringing justice to the victims of these events would most likely be impossible. One thing is for certain, though. We can all thank the BAU for making our world a whole lot safer.